At my wife's funeral, a strange man stood in the crowd, looking grief-stricken. He was young, mid-30s at most, with neatly combed hair and a suit that looked too crisp, too perfect for a day like this. Then he spoke, his voice thick with sorrow. "She was the love of my life." Gasps rippled through the church. I heard my mother-in-law stifle a sob. The air changed, tense and expectant. I turned to him, my heart pounding, my grief momentarily eclipsed by a sharper, darker emotion. I clenched my jaw. Not yet. But when I finally stood, I made sure everyone knew the truth. Emma was my wife for 12 years. We had what people called a perfect marriage, at least from the outside. We were the couple others envied, the ones who hosted dinner parties with laughter that rang a little too forced, who took vacation photos where I was always the one holding the camera. She was beautiful, charismatic, and so damn good at pretending. I was the quiet one, the steady one, the man who loved too deeply and suspected too little. Until the night I found out. 6 months before her death, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of her hushed voice in the hallway. Emma rarely took calls at night. She was a light sleeper, careful with her schedule. But that night, I heard her whispering, her voice softer, more intimate than I had ever heard it with me. I crept closer. "I love you too," she said, her voice breaking. Something in me cracked. I didn't confront her immediately. I watched. I waited. I became a ghost in my own home, moving through rooms she had already left, standing in doorways while she texted with a secretive smile. And then I found the messages. Hundreds of them. Years worth. "I can't wait to see you. I wish I had met you first. Someday, I'll tell him. I promise." My hand shook as I scrolled through her double life. He wasn't just a fling. He was her real love. I was the intruder. I wanted to rage, to scream, to break something. But I didn't. Because I knew one thing for certain: revenge is best served cold. For months, I carried the weight of her betrayal like a stone in my chest. I slept beside her, woke up next to her, kissed her cheek in the mornings, knowing she wished it were his lips instead. But I was patient. Then came the accident. A rainy night. A sharp curve. A car flipping 3 times before coming to a stop. The phone call came at 3 a.m. "Mr. Calloway, I'm so sorry. Your wife didn't make it." I sat in silence, gripping the edge of the counter, my knuckles white. Emma was gone. And with her, my chance to confront her. To make her pay. Or so I thought. The funeral was meant to be closure. A final goodbye to the woman who had made a fool of me. I sat in the front row, accepting murmured condolences, watching as her family wept. Then he arrived. At first, I thought he was just another guest. Then I saw the way his hands trembled as he held a single red rose. The way his eyes stayed fixed on her closed casket, as if he were waiting for her to wake up. And then those fucking words tumbled out of his mouth. "She was the love of my life." A ripple of shock spread through the church. Murmurs. Stares. Someone audibly gasped. I felt a slow, dark smile forming in the corners of my lips. This was my moment. I stood, turning to face him. "You loved her?" I asked, my voice quiet, but firm enough to slice through the stunned silence. His eyes met mine, uncertainty flickering behind his grief. "Yes. I did." I nodded slowly, stepping toward him. "Then tell me, how did she love you?" He blinked, his mouth opening, then closing. The church was holding its breath. "Did she love you enough to tell you she was married?" I asked, tilting my head. "Did she love you enough to let you know you were the other man?" His face paled. The murmurs grew louder. I pulled out my phone. Opened the folder. And then, in front of the entire congregation, I began reading her messages. The church erupted in chaos. Emma's mother sobbed, shaking her head in disbelief. People turned to each other, whispering. The air was thick with betrayal, a posthumous reckoning she never saw coming. But the best part? Him. The man who had walked in, believing himself to be the tragic lover, was now the fool. His grief twisted into something ugly: humiliation. He tried to speak, stammering. She told me she was leaving you. I let out a sharp laugh. She lied. Just like she lied to me. Just like she lied to all of us. And then I leaned in, lowering my voice so only he could hear. You weren't special. You were just another secret she thought she could keep. His face crumbled. He turned and bolted from the church, his footsteps echoing through the stunned silence. I turned back to the crowd. They were still staring at me, waiting for me to break down, to rage, to cry. But I didn't. Instead, I stepped forward and looked at Emma's casket. You had everyone fooled, I murmured. But not anymore. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my wedding ring. For 12 years, it had felt like a symbol of love. Now, it was nothing more than a shackle I was finally free from. I placed it on top of the casket. Goodbye, Emma. Then I walked out, leaving the past behind me. I never saw him again. Never heard his name, never had to endure his grief-stricken face in my nightmares. He had vanished, just like she had. But I moved on. Not just from Emma, but from the version of myself who had been so blindly devoted to a woman who never truly loved me. I learned to breathe again. I learned to laugh. And most importantly, I learned that sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger. It's truth. As I walked away from that funeral, one thought remained with me: the dead don't get the last word. The living do.